She began to bathe 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became grey. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. So she was practicing austerity. She was trying to, practice austerity, and she was already very spiritually advanced. So Prabhupada says that sannyasis, brahmacharis, and vanaprasthas, they should bathe 3 times. Sometimes it is the practice, those who are strictly following. Sometimes grihasthas also do that. And although Devahuti was the daughter of a king, who was her father? Who was Devahuti's father? Anybody? Devahuti's father was Swayambhuva Manu. And she was she was brought up in luxury, but now she is practicing austerity because she is in the Vanaprastha stage of life. So Prabhupada says, to be too fat is not very good for spiritually advanced life. Rather, one should reduce, because if one becomes fat, it is an impediment to progress. And so if we eat more than necessary, that's one of the obstacles on the path of bhakti. If we eat more than necessary, then it impedes our spiritual advancement. So, like that. Okay, so one should be careful not to eat too much, sleep too much, or remain in comfortable position. Means we have to do some penance. Krishna says, Yagna, Dana, and Tapa, they purify even the great souls. So this should not be given up. Tapa means austerity. And for us, austerity is simplified in this Kali Yuga. We don't have to go to Himalayas or stand in cold water. We just have to rise early, chant Hare Krishna, read Srila Prabhupada's books, worship Tulsi Devi, which is very simple, offering water, circumambulating Tulsi Devi. We have to follow the 4 regulative principles and cooperate with one another for spreading Krishna consciousness. Because this is the age of quarrel and kalaha. Kalaha means quarrel. So Kali will try to create dissension between the devotees internally. And that's why, there'll be splits. And that's how the movement can be weakened. So Prabhupada said, your love for me will be shown by how you cooperate with one another. So it is difficult because we all have our false ego in Kali Yuga, and to cooperate, it's difficult because we are conditioned like that, to be the center. So it is very difficult to cooperate, but Prabhupada wanted us to all cooperate, to push on this movement. And if we cooperate, it creates a very nice, pleasing environment, nice, pleasing atmosphere, and it can attract many conditioned souls to the movement. So with Prabhupada in the center, with Krishna in the center, we should cooperate with one another. So voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties, one should take less food and less sleep. Of course, it will vary from person to person, but at our own level, how much sleep we need, we can determine. These are the procedures for practicing any kind of yoga, whether Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Hatha Yoga. Okay, so he's talking about, she was practicing austerity. So the next verse. The home and household paraphernalia of Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way, by dint of his mystic powers of austerity in yoga, that his opulence was sometimes envied by those who travel in outer space in airplanes. So we know Kardama Muni created a whole mansion in the sky, floating. Because Devahuti and Kardama Muni, they were married, so they wanted to have some. Devahuti had become very slim and thin from practicing austerity, and then she wanted children. So Kardam Muni, by his mystic power, he created a situation where they could enjoy, and after enjoying, then Devahuti was feeling, oh, I spent so much time uselessly in sense gratification. Like that, there's a verse like that. And then she wanted to become more spiritually enlightened. So she asks Kapila Dev, her son, to enlighten her. Okay. So the statement in this verse that Kardam Muni's household affairs were envied by persons who travel in outer space refers to the denizens of heaven. Their airships are not like those we have invented in modern age, which fly only from one country to another. Their airplanes were capable of going from one planet to another. So Prabhupada is comparing the airship of the demigods who can go from one planet to another. There are many such statements in Srimad Bhagavatam, and we may cast it aside as some mythology. But Prabhupada says, there are many such statements in Srimad Bhagavatam from which we can understand that there were facilities to travel from one planet to another, especially in the higher planetary systems, and who can say that they are not still traveling? The speed of our airplanes and space vehicle is very limited, but as we have already studied, Kardam Muni traveled in outer space in an airplane which was like a city. And he journeyed to see all different heavenly planets, like we have business class, right? They try to create a nice situation. So Kardam Muni, by his mystic power, he created a whole city, like in the sky, a floating castle in the air, which had many rooms. It was described how it has many rooms and so many luxurious comforts. That was an ordinary airplane. That was not an ordinary airplane, nor was it an ordinary space travel, because Kardam Muni was such a powerful mystic yogi. His opulence was envied by the denizens of heaven. So he could create something so wonderful. The material world is characterized by envy. When you have something, when somebody has something that we don't have, then we envy the person. So here, even the denizens of heaven, although they are pious people, they also have envy. They are feeling, oh, Kardam Muni has created such a nice, we don't have such a nice airplane. It was not an ordinary airplane, it was like a castle. So, Kardam Muni created by his mystic yoga. The opulence of the household of Kardam Muni is described herein. The bed sheets and mattresses were all as white as the foam of milk. The chairs and benches were made of ivory and were covered by clothes of lace with golden filigree, and the couches were made of gold and had very soft pillows. Okay, the walls of the house there were made of first-class marble, decorated with valuable jewels. There was no need of light, for the household was illuminated by the rays of these jewels. The female members of the household were all amply decorated with jewelry. It is understood from this statement that the opulences of household life were exhibited in valuable jewels, ivory, first-class, marble, and furniture made of gold and jewels. The clothes are also mentioned as being decorated with golden filigree. Everything actually had some value. It was not like the furniture of the present day, which is cast in valueless plastic or base metal. The way of Vedic civilization is that whatever was used in household affairs had to be valuable. So they had gold and Prabhupada is saying not like today where there is plastic. And in case of need, such items of value could be exchanged immediately. So if the householder had some need of money, then he could sell some of his stuff, which was very valuable because it was made up of valuable jewels, first-class marble, jewels. Thus, once broken and unwanted furniture and paraphernalia would never be without value. This system is still followed by Indians in household affairs. They keep metal utensils and golden ornaments or silver plates and valuable silk garments with gold embroidery. And in case of need, they can have some money in exchange immediately. So India, they have jewels. Many people have jewels, jeweled ornaments, necklaces, and so many rings and things like that. And they have also silver plates, which can be exchanged for if there was some need of money. There are exchanges for the money lenders and the householders. Okay, so like that now it is describing. The compound of the main household was surrounded by beautiful gardens with sweet fragrant flowers and many trees. So her household was very beautiful, with which produced fresh fruit and were tall and beautiful. The attraction of such gardens was that singing birds would sit on the trees, and their chanting voices as well as the humming sound of bees made the whole atmosphere as pleasing as possible. So she was living in a very nice situation. When Devahuti would enter that lovely garden to take her bath in the pond filled with lotus flowers, the associates of the denizens of heaven, the Gandharvas, would sing about Kardama's glorious household life. Her great husband Kardama gave her protection at all times. The ideal husband and wife relationship is very nicely described in this statement. Kardam Muni gave Devahuti all sorts of comforts in his duty as husband, but he was not at all attached to his wife, and that is why at some point he left when his son was born. As soon as his son Kapila Dev or when he was grown up, Kardam at once left all family connection. Similarly, Devahuti was the daughter of a great king, Swayambhuva Manu, and was qualified and beautiful, but she was completely dependent on the protection of her husband. According to Manu, women, the fair sex, should not have independence at any stage of life. In childhood, a woman must be under the protection of parents. In youth, she must be under the protection of the husband. And in old age, she must be under the protection of the grown children. Devahuti demonstrated all the statements of Manu Samhita in her life. As a child, she was dependent on her father. Later, she was dependent on her husband in spite of her opulence. And she was later dependent on her son Kapila Dev. But of course, Kapila Dev also left. Although her position was unique from all points of view, saintly Devahuti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied by the ladies of heavenly planets, gave up all such comforts. So she had all the facilities to be comfortable, but she practiced austerity despite having all such comfort. She was only sorry that her great son was separated from her. Devahuti was not at all sorry at giving up her material comforts, but she was very much aggrieved at the separation of her son. So Kapila Dev, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he left. So she was not pained because she was living a life of austerity, but she was pained because her son left. It may be questioned here that if Devahuti was not at all sorry to give up the material comforts of life, then why she was sorry about losing her son? Why was she so attached to her son? The answer is explained in the next verse. He was not an ordinary son. Her son was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can give up material attachment, therefore only when one has attachment for the Supreme Person. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Param drishtva nivartate. Only when one has actually some taste for spiritual existence can he be reluctant to follow the materialistic way of life. So those who have higher taste, then they can give up lower enjoyment like watching movies and so many things, because they like to serve Krishna. That gives them more pleasure than so many other activities of enjoyment. So and they actually become Atmaram, those who are, because they are relishing pleasure from within. They don't need any external object for their pleasure, because they are very happy in remembering Krishna, in chanting Hare Krishna. So they become like the Supreme Lord, who is also Atmaram, self-satisfied. But they want everybody else. Their only anxiety is that why all the jivas are not experiencing this higher taste. Prabhupada was experiencing so much taste in chanting Hare Krishna. And sometimes, we know he would choke up in classes. Before Jai Radha Madhav, he was singing one time, Parama Karuna, like that, he would choke up in ecstasy. So he was feeling so much taste in connecting with Krishna. So he was wanting to give that taste to others. So that's why, so that he wants to make everybody happy. He wants everybody to get out of suffering condition. We are all suffering in this material world. in the cycle of birth and death. It is only because of the illusory energy we don't realize that how we are not suffering. We are suffering. We don't realize that we are suffering. But everybody is in this struggle for material existence. So uh, pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, they come from the spiritual world. Prabhupada himself said, I don't want to go, but Krishna told me you go and write books. And Prabhupada says, when I write books, Krishna personally comes and dictates to me what to write. And so I also read my own books. And I also get something when I read my own books, Prabhupada was saying. So these books are not ordinary. The words of Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee, they are coming from the spiritual world, from the Supreme Lord himself. And he wanted us to read his books. That's why he so painstakingly translated these books, staying up all night, and taking so much effort. He engaged so many disciples of his to produce the Chaitanya Charitamrita in a very short time. They were working overtime. All these things because he wanted us to read the books and so that we can become convinced about chanting Hare Krishna and going back home, back to Godhead, so that we can get out of this difficult situation we are in. So like that. And so we should not only distribute Prabhupada's books, but we should also read those books. Only when one has actually some taste for spiritual existence can he be reluctant to follow the materialistic way of life. So it doesn't appeal to him after he comes to Krishna consciousness. There may be lingering attachments and lingering desires, but it does not give him satisfaction. Like Prabhupada himself said, once I went to watch a movie, and because his friend insisted, please come to watch the movie, please come. But he said that in the middle of the movie I came out. Of course, all movies are not bad, but I'm just saying, if this Krishna conscious movie, it's all right. So he was saying, because otherwise, in the movies, what they show a very happy situation of material life, which is not at all a reality. And people start imagining, when having seen so many movies, I myself can, they create a very beautiful situation. One scene is in Switzerland, one scene is in London, and there is a nice song going on and very beautiful scenery, which doesn't happen in reality. And even in the real life of the actors and the actresses, of course they are doing it because they have to make the movie, but their personal lives are sometimes not like that. So like that. So this is all kind of illusory enjoyment, and we get the idea that they are enjoying very much, and then we want to be hanker for such enjoyment like that. So much happens because of all this media, which paint a picture of life. Whereas if you read Shastra, you will get the reality of life. So do we want to remain in illusion, or we want to come to reality? Yesterday we were distributing some books, and there's a book by Kratu Maharaj, Slap of Maya. So one girl came and said, I don't believe in illusion. I don't believe in Maya. So why don't believe in, there is no, it's not like we believe in Maya. We are already in Maya, because we are accepting Ma-ya. Ma means not, and ya means this. We are accepting something which is not the reality as the reality. That is Maya. So then, I was telling her that, we are thinking we are this body, and I am this body. But that is not the reality. The reality is I am spirit soul, but I am thinking I am this body. So that is the illusion. Body is real, the soul is also real, but the soul's identification with the body is unreal. Thinking it to be myself. Of course, we take care of the body, but just as the dress is separate from the person, the body is separate from the soul. And Krishna makes this so many different verses of Bhagavad Gita. He's emphasizing this. Vashanchi Nani, Vashanshi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinati naroparani. Tatha vihaya sharirani jirnani anyati sanyati navani dehi. So it gives the analogy that how an old garment is discarded for a new garment. Similarly, an old body is discarded, and we see people when they die, they are still there, but the body is left behind. So this is this is the illusion. It starts with that illusion that I am this body, and everything connected to the body is mine. Janasya mohayam aham mameti. So how to get out of this illusion? By transcendental sound vibration. When we chant Hare Krishna, when we hear Bhagavatam, when we hear the words of the pure devotees, then slowly this illusion, slowly and gradually this illusion will go away and we can come to reality. If we still do the same things, but we do it in the proper consciousness, we still take bath, we still eat, we still sleep, but we understand the actual situation, so who we are. Okay, so anavriti hi shabdat. Vedanta Sutra says you can become uncovered from this material existence by sound vibration. And that sound vibration is the sound vibration of Bhagavatam, sound vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is the way we can become free. So the more we come in contact with transcendental sound vibration, as Vaisheshika Prabhu says, keep the transcendental vibration going. Right? Keep the transcendental vibration going means always hearing something or chanting Hare Krishna. So Shravanam Kirtanam, good Shravanam Kirtanam leads to good Smaranam. So Devahuti's husband had already left home and accepted the renounced order of life. And then her only son Kapila left home. Although she knew all the truths of life and death, and although her heart was cleansed of all dirt, she was very aggrieved at the loss of her son, just as a cow is affected when her calf dies. So she understood everything because Kapila Dev had explained everything about devotional service. Still, she was in pain on losing her son who had left the home. Prabhupada was asked this question, that why Arjuna, after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, why is he aggrieved at the loss of his son Abhimanyu? Why is he feeling sad? Because Krishna already said that soul never dies and a sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So why Arjuna, who had heard the Bhagavad Gita at the start of the Kurukshetra war, then he's feeling pain. So Prabhupada says, yes, devotee is not like a dull stone, and Abhimanyu was a great devotee. He was a devotee of Krishna. So to feel separation from devotees is all right. But that did not stop him from doing his service. He continued with his service. He didn't say, Krishna, I don't want to fight because now I have lost my son. So I'm demoralized. Actually, Dronacharya was demoralized because when he learned that his son Ashwatthama had died, he kept aside his weapons and he said, and that's when they killed him. But Arjuna was feeling sad at the loss of his son, who was a devotee. And Abhimanyu has a history also. He was going to come for a certain period of time from his past life. So, devotees do feel separation. When we have a whole song, we are not like a dull stone, Prabhupada says. We have emotions. Jayanilo prema dhana karuna prachur. So, Narottam Das Thakur is lamenting, and Jayanilo prema dhana karuna prachur.